Morning. So, look, if you think that the way you're viewing this looks similar to the way it used to be viewed, you would be correct because I have a new phone holder. Okay. All right. So, I want to talk about men and women's sports for a second, and I'm going to circle back to basketball. Have any of you ever performed in any gymnastics before? I have performed, no, let me rephrase that. I've taken some intramural gymnastics. No, I wasn't good. It was something I did out on a whim. I did it actually in college. And doing like it was like an intramural club type thing with people who had done gymnastics before, men and women. I quickly learned how different it was in their approach. Okay. Although there's all about flipping and endurance and all that kind of stuff like that, but it's just like two different games. You know, mm, they have some apparatus, basically just the floor, I guess that's the same, but they have other apparatus, right? They train different kinds of muscles. There are things that the woman can do that the men cannot, and vice versa. And then there's tennis. So I used to play a lot of tennis. No, I was not on the level of a Serena, but I was a decent little athlete. Um, the rules are the same. Well, most of them. The sets are different, right? The the lines of the court are the same. The equipment are the same. But men's and women's tennis is different. There are times that the women will work out with the men if they want to increase their endurance and to get used to hitting certain types of balls or whatever. I remember I was doing a little workout with one of the guys that I was a partner with for mixed doubles. And I'm 5'6". He's like 6'1", 6'2". He's tall, lanky, strong. And I remember he hit a ball to me that almost took the racket out of my hand. And I'm a pretty strong player. I mean, back in my fitter fun days, right? The kind of ball I had to approach his shot differently because of the weight behind that ball and how he got so much spin that that ball could literally jump over my head. And he was a really advanced player. I mean, I was a pretty decent player, but he was an advanced player playing college. And he would have to coach me on how to hit his ball. He's like, no. So the way I approached that ball and the way the game would wear me down because how he's like, I can just bully you if I want to. You have to approach this differently. He's like, you're not going to compete with what I'm going to give to you. He's like, I will wear you out. And my pride would just be like, no, you're not. No, no, you're not. And I was like, done. I was bent over. And he was like, you have to stop doing that and do this. So I just wanted to just put some of this stuff out there. And you can pick other sports, right? I've seen the women arena sports for football, which I know is not the same as men's football. Now, let me just say this. We're going to circle to basketball. Same court. I believe they have the same size ball. But men and women are physically built different. The things that they do on the court are going to be different, right? They talk about how women typically are a little bit more fundamentally sound, right? You don't see women throwing down the basket, right? You don't see them dunking down. Not to say that there are women who can't, but most women are not built like LeBron or any man in the NBA. Look at the women, as strong or even as thick as they are, they still are not built like men. You have some who want to be men, you have some who want to act like it, but they are physically not the same. Even the smallest guy, somebody like a Steph Curry, is not small. He's just small in comparison to these men. Now, where am I going with this? The men and women's game are completely different games. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm listening to these men get on these podcasts to tell women about their game. They don't even approach the game the same. Number one, the women are hungrier than the men. So let's just stop right there. They're hungrier. They've always been hungrier. Now, some would argue it's because there's not enough roster spots and so the competition is higher. And I would agree with that, right? There's so much money in the men's game. Now, check this out. There's so much flash and money in the men's game. They grew the game so much that the product that they're putting out in the NBA is not even that interesting until the playoffs. Now, I want you to listen to this for a second. No one even really believes that these guys are playing that hard. You've got load management happening now because there's so much money in the game. The integrity of the game has changed. You can't put your hand on anyone now. That's a foul. So now the league has turned into let's just rain threes. Let's just rain threes. And we got to load manage. And we're going to create super teams. I want you to think about this for a second. And now, this reminds me of when Steve Harvey was Steve Harvey, and he was like, this isn't about integrity. This is about the money game or something to that effect. That is how the men treat the NBA. Where am I going with this? The women played their game because they just loved the game. They loved the game. They love the game. It's not even about money for them at this point. I mean, of course it is about money, but what I'm saying is, you know what they say when money starts getting a hold of something, it's like absolute money corrupts absolute power. It's one of those things we talk about. Once you start putting money in something, well then, things. You understand what I'm saying? Things they go to bed. And where am I going with this is, you've got men trying to insert their opinion on what the women's game should be. And they are making the assumption that the women care only about money. So they're saying you need to do these things in order to get money. And from what I think I'm viewing and understanding is they're saying, yes, money is important, but you know what? How we play the game because we love the game is important. For those of you who know like anything about lacrosse, men and women have lacrosse, right? Two completely different games. They have a net, they have goalies, they have players. But the men have to wear more equipment because there's certain things they're allowed to do that the women are not. The women can't do certain things because they don't wear certain equipment, right? The men don't know anything about 8 meters. The women have an 8 meter. Their sticks, for those of you who don't know, the pocket of a man's stick is a lot deeper than a woman. Women have a shallow pocket. So their stick skills, they have a different type of finesse. And when I talk about the men and women's games in lacrosse, the one thing that people don't seem to understand is a lot of times when people are playing, they want to grow the game, yes, but they want the integrity of the game to remain intact too. They play that game because they love the game. They love it. They love that game, knowing that most people in America are not going to probably, like it's a growing sport, but they play because they love it. Men and women still approach their games differently. The skills that they work on, okay, it's still very physical for both, but they approach their game differently. So I look at the men and women who are playing professional basketball. Well, you got men who have many more teams that you can filter people through and you can have all kinds of competition every night. But at the end of the day, these podcasters spend a lot of time talking about men not playing because they're always supposedly injured and the load management and people don't want to show up because of contracts and money and all these other things like that. It all centers around money. The product, their game, has become a game of prima donnas. People don't even really want to play until the second half of the season. People don't really care until after the All-Star game. The women's game is physical and is competitive from the jump because they have a shorter season and they have fewer teams. And so when men try to inflict their opinion on the women's game, I'm like, wait a second. You're assuming that your values align with the women's values. It doesn't mean that they don't want more money and opportunities and stuff like that. But they clearly have been playing this game because they just love this game, even when there was no money in it. Unfortunately, it meant that, okay, in order for me to live, I have to go elsewhere to play as well. But they love their game. So telling them, sacrifice the integrity of your game for the sake of the money, it's hard for these women to consume that information. Because see, they've watched the men do that, which there was a benefit. They're making a lot of money, but look at what their product is now. You got people who can't play, they're load managing. You got people who switch teams every 3 minutes to try to create the next super team. You have people who can't play. You got people who are like, I am not going to be able to do this unless I make 50 million versus 40 million. Like the stuff that goes on in the NBA. You've got people talking about Kennedy Carter when you got Draymond Green taking his foot and trying to stomp people with it. Are you serious? They don't they don't spend that much. I mean, like look at the things that they're doing in the NBA. And now they want to imprint their value system on these women. And so you can't say, like, well, what these women should or shouldn't do, because maybe their values are different. Maybe they're like, the integrity of the game is just as important to us. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. This may not be what you want to hear, but it is what it is. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts and opinions are about that. Because I feel like people are getting some things all kinds of twisted. These men need to stop imprinting they're trying to enforce their value system on these women, telling them what they should and shouldn't do. All this screaming that's going on, telling women that they're wrong and they're petty. I'm like, and yet look at your product. You might be a global product, that is true, but the integrity of the game is a wimpy game now. All we had to do was wait until the second half of the season and then watch everybody put more threes up there and then hope that the stars are available to play, let alone in the postseason, because they're all load managing now. They got to load manage. Give me a break. Anyway, that's pretty much it. The men are trying to enforce their values or put their values on the women's game. The men are trying to basically say, like, this is what you need to do to grow the game, and it's about making money. And what the women are saying is, yeah, money is important, but we've been playing this game for years, even when there was no money in it, because it's not just the money for us, it's the love of the game. And these are the things we value in our game. These are the things that we care about. Our approach to the game is different. We can't approach the game the same way that you guys approach the game. We're a little hungrier. We have to compete harder. There's less roster spots. There's a shorter season. We don't have the same muscle mass where every man is or woman is 7 foot tall so they can go in and just dunk all the time. Or better yet, we don't have the opportunity to load manage throughout the season anyway because our season is shorter. You guys hold out for like I can't do 40 million. I can only do 50 million. You guys don't care that much about your league. You would rather sacrifice your talents and everything by waving guns in the air on Instagram Live. That's what you would rather do. So to listen to these men get out here on these podcasts, talking about what the woman should and shouldn't do. I'm like, get your players to play a full year. You know what? Maybe some of the money should come out of this game if you want to save the product, because nobody cares about the NBA in the first half of the year. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because they're not even playing hard. It's happening in the NBA. So everybody's got to make a super team. We know. Look, I'd be surprised if Kyrie is still with the Mavs. Or where's Kevin Durant? He's due for a change. What about Beardman? Heck is his name? I always think it was so gross. Hart. He's due to make a change soon. The super teams, right? They're so busy worrying about how the WNBA and caping for Caitlyn. I actually like Caitlyn. That's the thing. But sometimes you got to call a thing a thing. But they're too busy caping for Caitlyn. I'm like, fix your game. Look, you're so busy worried about what's going on in the WNBA. I'm like, the NBA is a more global game now, and you guys are losing popularity. The homegrown talent is losing popularity, with the exception of like an Ant-Man or something like that. You've got the foreign kids coming in here. Luka Doncic. I can never get his Doncic, right? And what's the other one? Big guy. I like those guys. And they got personality. They're fundamentally sound. We have a jacked up AAU system over here. Don't even get me started on it. Anyway, the point I'm making is the men are too busy trying to tell the women how the WNBA should be. And they're saying, hey, it's not just money for us. We've been playing this game for years because we love this game and we love the integrity of this game. And you know what? We don't want to go lose the Olympics either, because there's pride for us in that. Damn the marketing. They're like, we want to win that gold medal. And that means a lot more to them and their game and integrity of the game. So I'm just kind of like, why are these men yammering on about stuff? I'm like, their approach to the game is different. So they get mad because the women don't dunk, which I kind of feel like some of them should be able to. I mean, like, heck, some of them are just as tall. They're so busy worried about what the women don't do. They made fun of that league for so long. And I'm like, fix your league. You got people coming in here who can't even exploit their full talents because they're too busy engaging in shenanigans, knocking up people every 2 seconds, waving guns, getting into fights, stupid stuff. And y'all worried about the WNBA wanting to put together the best roster for the Olympics? That's what you're worried about? And you can't get your so-called stars, the ones you guys talk about you market so much, to play a full season. You got the flopping going on. You know I love LeBron. Y'all got all the flopperization going on. You can't show them up to training camps. Y'all fighting each other, punching each other, and I'm like, oh my God. Fix the NBA. I think the problem with the NBA is there's too much money in the NBA. Now, don't get me wrong. I think everybody is deserving of their money, but what happens is when people start getting their coin, you got people who they say are robbing the NBA, like who was it, Ben Simmons or whatever it is. You got all that going on in the NBA. Fix the NBA. Stop putting your values on these women. They're letting you know what they value. And yes, of course, they would love to have more money, but they love that game. And you know what? They played that game when everybody made fun of them and clown, all of that stuff like that. You know what? They still love the game. They played the game at a high level. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm going to hang up because I need to get a breakfast sandwich somewhere. And I am hungry, even though I'm trying to get the rest of these couple of pounds off. But that breakfast sandwich right now is talking to me. I'm starving. All right. Let me know your thoughts.